can call the meeting to order at 5:31. Glad to see everybody tonight. So we're going to start with previous minutes. If there's any comments, questions, or concerns, raise them. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Perfect. So hearing a motion, I'm going to take a vote, and I'll start with Rick.
Aye.
Amy.
Aye.
Kevin. Kevin.
First, there was too many of him, and now he's not here at all.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes. Is that
Okay.
a yay vote?
I said aye if I can. I was not at the previous meeting, so I don't know if I can.
Oh, okay, then let's wait on those until we can actually get the members from the previous meeting. So we'll circle back to those. Lynn, did you come up with anything on those policies?
Yeah, sorry, I was opening the wrong agenda. So I was trying to find 15 things. I do have, I may need to pop out of this meeting. I have something kind of playing in the background that I'll need to attend to. I'll let you know, Polly, if I need to jump off and jump back on.
Okay.
So in terms of, you're right.
Yeah, a lot of those are second reads.
So I think they're actually all second reads.
Yeah,
aren't
they, yes, I would agree.
That's a typo.
Okay.
So if you want to approve the policy, we'll double check which read it is, if you're okay with doing that.
Okay. So I am going to suggest that we take the entire policy conversation as a whole. If there's any one in particular that you'd like to talk about, we can do that. Or questions. If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the second readings for all of those.
I'll make the motion.
Perfect. We have a motion by Rick Bartholomew. I'm taking a roll. Amy?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And Polly is an aye. So those policy second readings are approved. So next we're going to move on to prioritization or preview. Lynn, do we need to, or Morgan, do we need to shift the priority at all?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So then we're going to move on to recognition of visitors. Are there any visitors that would like to be recognized?
Nate has brought a crew with him.
Okay, I just thought that are there any others as far as visitor status?
I think everybody
No?
here is with Nate.
Do we know what the blank
Okay.
screen is at the bottom? Well, it's the bottom of mine. I don't see a name on one of these.
There's Jane, there's a couple of Kevins, Northwest Access.
Okay. Am I the only one that sees a blank?
Yeah, I don't see a blank.
Okay.
I see a blank screen, Lynn.
You stretch it way out. I just didn't know if there was someone there that wanted to identify themselves.
I wonder if it's the second Kevin.
Could be.
Or
Okay.
the third or the fourth.
It's that kind of night, isn't it? So it looks like we are going to start with the school spotlight, which is Cold Hollow Career Center with Nate DeMar. So
Okay.
Nate.
Thank you. I brought a couple of my teachers and coordinators, Sarah and Josh. I did send along in the agenda a couple of presentations that we're using with our 10th graders for recruiting. So actually, and that's 30 minutes of viewings if you go through everything. So you guys can all do that at your leisure. But what I did want to do, it is CTE month as well as a lot of other months, but CTE is highlighted this month. And one of the things that I think makes CTE great is our student organizations. We have 3, and we have Skills USA, we have DECA, and we have FFA. And when I think of Colorado Career Center, and I think of Sarah Downs, and I think of the FFA that has done so many great things and continues to. So I would like to turn it over to kind of those 3. Sarah Stebbins, I think, is going to share the screen. If not, I can do it, but I'm going to give her the first crack at it. So you can do that whenever, Sarah. And they are just going to let you guys know what FFA has done over the years. You guys have supported them immensely with sending students to Indianapolis for nationals and whatnot. But I do want to turn it over to them to just let you know what FFA is and what they do for our students. So I think Sarah Downs might be first to go. So there you go.
Hi, so as you can see from the screen, we are talking about the last 40 years because that's how long I've been here at Cold Hollow. But this chapter actually has been active since 1932. And the FFA was founded in 1928. So it's been very active for a long time. We serve students from all over. Actually, we have a couple Missisquoi kids right now, and we've had BFA kids as well, but mostly we're Enosburg-Richford students. It used to be called Future Farmers of America, and now it's Future Farmers and Agriculturalists because, as you know, the number of farms have diminished, but we have a lot of people still in agriculture. And we also have a lot of kids who might take ag science class, and then they might take ag mechanics or business, and they're still involved in the FFA because there's so many things that we have to offer that really change their lives. And we'll go on to the next slide. So these are basically our creed that we live by: learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, and living to serve. Our mission statement, which comes from national, we've got almost 750,000 kids throughout the country, and focus on leadership and personal growth and career success. Community involvement is also another really important integral part of it. We spend a lot of time mentoring our students, helping them unlock their potential, and you'll see that as the slides continue, and we really do focus on leadership. This is a community for kids that are not necessarily in sports or other places, but they just flourish and grow, and they blossom from shy little kids to real leaders. Currently, the state FFA advisor is one of our former students who was a state officer. We're very closely tied to the state and the national organization and work very closely with them. Okay, next. And what makes us special is we have a 3-tiered model that when agricultural education was founded in the FFA, we looked at, learning by doing is how you retain and you bring it across into real life. So we do a lot of labs. We also have a lot of students are either working in some aspect of ag or on a farm, and they're taking their experiences in the classroom or in the labs and bringing it out into work. They can get credit for that later, and we'll talk about how they can win awards. And we've had kids win thousands of dollars of awards over the years with that. It also helps kids set goals, and goal setting is really, really important. And a lot of these kids have never really done it. And we work very closely with the kids to try and set goals. We work with them on, applications where they can win money, win trips. So there's real incentives for them. Oh, and I'm turning over to Sarah and Josh.
So to us, the FFA is engaged learning. It's not only engaging students in the classroom, but it's also engaging students out in the field, keeping everybody focused and working hard. A lot of what they do leads to competitions. We compete in, I believe it's 8 or 9 competitions, and our students do really well in them, earning themselves trips, well, all over the place, really. The real winners are the students, though, because these skills not only help them in school, but they also continue and help them in life. Real world jobs coming from real world education. So that we go to the next slide. So the experiences is the experience in the woods, learning to scale, standing timber, scale logs, tree ID. In our area, sugaring's big, learning production, record keeping, the marketing and the value added sides. Working the greenhouse, learning the plant science, the marketing behind that, and the designs of different plant setups and baskets and all sorts of cool items. Also on the farm, learning the animal science, the crop management, and getting the hands on the curriculum with the animals. I know one of the cool things that our students is the artificial insemination that they get for an IRC, which is really cool. Next slide, please. Talked about opportunities. Some of the really cool opportunities that I've got to be a part of, and Sarah, both Sarahs, is our students get to go to state convention and represent Cold Hollow and meet students from other schools and tech centers and build that camaraderie. And they really enjoy this. But the best part is when they do well there, which happens quite often, they get to go to Eastern States, which is down in Massachusetts, and represent Vermont in our regional competitions. And again, there's camaraderie of the FFA and getting to know people from not just Vermont, but now New England, joining states. And they also, as Nate mentioned, we've gone to Indianapolis the past, I believe 5 years. I've gone 4 years to represent not just Vermont, but Cold Hollow at the national level with just under 70,000 FFA members, all crammed into downtown Indianapolis. And it's a really big deal for these kids coming from little Franklin County into a big city like that and getting to represent our school and our state. And it's an opportunity that not a lot of kids get, and these guys wouldn't get it if it wasn't for the FFA. Sarah?
Yep. So FFA, as Sarah also mentioned, is a lot of leadership. So our students have a lot of opportunities to improve their leadership skills in many ways. So leadership and employability skills are naturally embedded in all of our curriculum that we do, but they also have the opportunity to participate in leadership development events, which include things like public speaking, extemporaneous speaking, employment skills, which is an opportunity to showcase their interviewing skills in their resumes, as well as other leadership events like, as you see here, the FFA, the state FFA puts on leadership conferences at least annually that our students can attend. And we also have periodically had state officers as well as national officers visit our career center to do some leadership opportunities with our students. They also, our students can also choose to take on a leadership role within our chapter. So we have an officer team, typically around 7 students, and they are asked to plan and run our monthly meetings. which includes learning parliamentary procedure, meeting etiquette, and they plan and manage our money. So we have a treasurer and all of our membership activities. As Sarah said, FFA is also a lot about community. So we have an amazing community surrounding us, and we try to immerse ourselves in our community as much as we can and give back to our community as much as we can. So we hold events like our wild game dinner, where we open it up to our community to come and join us at our dinner, and our students cook for them. And we also go apple picking at a local orchard, where we go and take a couple hours to get as many apples off the trees just for that orchard so that they can press. We also do the June Dairy Day float and the tractor parade. We have made a float for that as well. But as important it is for us to immerse ourselves in our community, we also try to build a community within our FFA chapter. So a lot of our students, this is their club, this is their outlet, and we try to build a supportive environment, welcoming environment for them to grow and excel in, and make friends and enjoy their high school career. And a lot of our students, as you can see, this is the highlight of their high school career, as being a part of FFA and a lot of the opportunities that they get to have. So through all the things that we've highlighted, FFA is also success for a lot of our students. And I had to provide 2 slides for this because we have a lot of pictures of our student successes. We also have a brag sheet that we will share with you all. So we truly believe that because of our engaged learners and the community that we have and our opportunities, we have an extreme amount of success with our students, and our students are so successful and they enjoy the time that they have with us. So we just within the last 5 years have had probably 20 top 3 finishing teams. We probably had equally as many or more top placing individuals in a variety of different competitions, from forestry to dairy cattle judging to prepared public speaking to employment skills and in between. So we have a lot of student success in our program. I'll share the other one there. And to highlight all of this as well, we wanted to reach out to our students. So all the quotes that you've seen on all of the pages, and as well on this one, are all from our past students that we've had. So I think that speaks the most volume to the success of our program, and to our FFA chapter is what our students will tell you about it. And as I've said before, all of our students, within minutes, when we reached out to them, they were willing to provide us with a detailed quote about how impactful FFA was to their future and to their high school career. I'm not going to stay on that slide. We can share that with you. Our future plans. So as we said, our program is a student-run organization. So we try very hard to guide and hope that they decide. We put in our input more some years than others, but some of our goals this year, or well, after COVID, will include, as Josh said, our trip to National FFA is a really huge opportunity for a lot of our students, and an opportunity that not many students get to have, to travel outside of the state. So, and it just shows our students that much more what opportunities are out there for them. So we really love to bring at least an officer team, if not teams that have done well in their competitions, to nationals at least once a year. We want to show our engagement in all of our learning by doing well at our competitions, and we hope to immerse ourselves even more in our amazing and supportive community. Any questions about FFA?
No, that was amazing. I really love how, you kind of honor the history of FFA and what it's meant in our community, but also like goals going forward and everything it brings. That was great.
I'd also say that not only is it team things, we also have, there's a proficiency that students can fill out. It's an 18-page application, and it's based on the 3rd tier of what they're doing outside of class, their work. They have to tie what they've learned in school, they have to write. And then there's financial pieces, and you turn it into the state, and each one of these students win $250 It goes to them. And we've had some years 7 kids win it. Well, we didn't have state convention last year, but the year before we had 5 kids. The year before we had 3. We've had kids with State Star Farmers. They win $500 for that. If they are a high individual for some of the competitions, they get $1,000 scholarship to VTC. We also have the Vermont Land Steward Award, which is $250. So there's some other goals that they can set, and we work very intensely with them. And I'm just going to end with a piece from a student when he won. He was on a forestry team, but he had also won extemporaneous speaking, and I assumed he'd go for nationals to the extemporaneous speaking. He said, "No, I want to do extemporaneous speaking because that will help me grow more." And I think that's the tone that we set within the FFA, that you're going to grow and you're going to be a better person for what you learn and experience through the FFA. It's a really, really powerful organization that I think you see a lot of our leaders in the community are former FFA members.
Well, thank you guys so much. If there's any questions before they go, you feel free to ask them, or by all means, send them questions in through email.
Thank you all for jumping on tonight. That was great to see.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That was great. Thank you. Financial report with Morgan.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Holly, I
Yeah.
have kind of an urgent thing running in the background, and when you did the prioritization, I didn't know it. I didn't know the timing of it. I'm wondering if I could jump in ahead of Morgan.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay.
Anybody else have a problem with that? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, do you see my board report? Okay. So I have some personnel updates for you. We have some resignations, some hiring. We're welcoming Lisa to this board meeting. She's filling in for Rachel, who's at home enjoying her new baby girl. We have hired long-term subs and more paraeducators. There are no professional staff hirings that I need the board to approve. That last one there, Rose, is just informational because that'll be approved at the SU meeting. I don't have anything under student, but Beth does. Beth, did you want to do it now? Or did you want to wait?
I'll do it now when you're on.
Okay.
So we have a student who moved to Berkshire, and the mother has been transporting because she was under the impression if she had transported, then the student could still attend Richford Junior Senior High School. So it just came to our attention on Friday. I spoke to mom yesterday. She was very upset because the student is in 8th grade and is planning to attend Richford. And I asked her, I told her that I didn't have the authority to grant her the permission to stay, but I could present a letter to the board. And so she drafted an email that has the student's name in it. So I'm not going to give it to you, but she explains how that she thought she could stay, and there's a relative who attends Richford, but the student is in high school. So they just thought a Berkshire student could attend Richford. And I do think it's confusing for some people if they don't understand all the details. And she talks about how the student is high anxiety with change, and she would have to change and then change right back to Richford. And it's the first school that she's ever attended where she has made friends and got excited about school and going to class in general. And she's looking forward to graduating from Richford High School. And she is hoping that the board would let her stay for the remainder of this year.
And so she started out the year in Richford and has just recently moved to Berkshire?
Yes, just recently moved in the last few weeks.
Any thoughts, comments from the board? I mean,
You're froze, Polly.
This is one of those that's squarely in the boards. Or do you not have a quorum now that Polly jumped off?
my feeling is
Oh,
that,
she's back. She's gone.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
We can hear
so
now.
my feeling is that given the year with this hybrid system and everything that's, been unsettling for education in general, I think it would make best practice for this particular year, given that they've moved in the middle of the year, it makes sense to let them stay. But that's just my thought. So I'd be interested to hear what everybody else thinks.
I'm on
We
the
have
same
any-
page, Polly.
Do we have any precedent of situations similar to this?
Yes.
We have had precedent.
We've done it in Richford before.
I think you've probably had precedent doing it both ways since I would say in the last 4 years. Well, I don't know if I can say that. You have had precedent where you've turned people down at this point in the year because there's so much year left.
And Kevin is right. We have let a middle school kid, a couple of them stay.
When
In the
the
past.
Richford Town School District allowed that. I think
Yes, you're
we-
right. You're right, Lynn. It was Richford Town School District that allowed it.
So this is one of those situations that is squarely in the board's realm. I just want to talk through for a second. And Amy's asking that question about precedent, and I think it's important to just keep that in mind. So if you make a decision, we would want to be able to apply your decision to other circumstances. So this is one of those that we don't have school choice that crosses the district boundary. The school choice at the elementary level is just within the district boundary. So this would be one of those special, you'd have to give permission, grant permission for the child to stay for the remainder of the year. So you'd be educating this kiddo as a non-resident student. I have no issue with that if the board decides to go in that direction. I'd want you to be clear about what metrics you're using to make the decision and how would you, is this specific because of the year and because of COVID? Or is this something that you would be setting precedent for in the future?
I think for me, it's this year and because of COVID. For me, it doesn't make sense to put a kid in another remote setting with another teacher 3 days a week, potentially at this point in the year, when we can keep all the safety guidelines that they've known and all of the situations that they've known for particularly this year. So for me, it's about this year in particular.
I think that's good rationale, Polly. I think especially with the social limitations that our structures have in place during this pandemic, that expecting that kid to then move into this new environment with all those limitations because of the pandemic, for me is enough to say that let's let it be.
Kevin, are you still on the agreement side?
Yes, I am.
And how about you, Rick?
Oh, yeah, fully.
Okay. So I think you have our decision. Would you like a motion?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion being made by Rick. I'll take a roll. Oh, cute. And so Rick.
Aye.
Amy.
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
And Polly is an aye. We still don't have more or Wendy, correct? I can't see them because.
I'm hogging the screen.
Correct. Okay, so moved.
Thank you. They'll be very happy.
So I just want to talk a little bit about our COVID response to just give a bit of an update. So we recently made the decision to return our sixth graders to more time in person. And in a couple of situations, we've had schools that have been able to identify space for seventh and eighth grade students as well. So this has been something that's been on the principal's radar since late October, early November. Once the Department of Health made the shift and allowed sixth grade to fall under the 3 feet of physical distance guidelines, we started making plans for when can we return our sixth grade. We paused those plans when the infections went higher in November. The positivity rates in the state and in the region grew pretty substantially. So we paused those plans and we had our eye on it through January. And then we made the decision to move forward. In hindsight, I wish we had pushed it back a week. I'm going to put it into that like bucket of lessons learned just about the timeline for communicating. I acknowledge that that was a quick turnaround for many of those situations. So at this point, we have sixth grade for your district. Sixth grade is back for Enosburg, and 6, 7, and 8 will be returning to in-person learning 4 days a week after the February break. Correct, Beth?
Yes, I put it in my board report. After February break on the we're bringing back sixth grade only for 2 days on Thursday and Friday, and then all of seventh and eighth graders are starting the following Monday, the 8th, I think.
So we have an issue with space and class size in Enosburg. And at this point, we do not yet have a plan to return the 7th and 8th grade to more time in person. We haven't found a way to do that with the number of staff members that we have and the space constraints. And the 7th and 8th grade are at that 6 foot mark, so they need to be 6 feet apart. So we'll inform you if we find a way to be able to make that happen. So winter sports got the go ahead last Friday. So your high schools will start competing. It's allowed after this Friday, beginning this Friday. So strict guidelines, no spectators, just game personnel and coaches. So we're moving forward with that. The middle school ADs and principals have worked out a plan for returning the 7th and 8th grade students to winter sports. We don't have plans for anything younger than that at this time, given the restrictions and guidelines that we have. Any questions on those two things before I keep going? So the next piece of the work that we're going to be doing is looking ahead to recovery. So we know that we've had lots of lost learning time since the pandemic started. And we know that, we're going to really need to put a thoughtful plan in place, a thoughtful multi-year plan in place to really attend to assessing where our students are currently at, and then planning for an acceleration of learning when throughout the spring and beginning next year. So we're waiting on an AOE template to kind of guide us in the direction of how we're going to be reporting out what our recovery plan is. But we're already beginning to lead into the ideas of where we need to be really digging into our assessment and where we need to be attending to our financial and human resources as we move forward in this. So that kind of goes along with you received an update from the VSBA on the legislative update. And within your legislative update, you got a summary of all of the recovery monies that have been allocated for public schools in Vermont. So we have a pretty substantial amount of money. There are several pools, the CRF money and the ESSER money. There's ESSER 1 and there's ESSER 2 money. Some of those expire this year, some in 22 and some in 23. So some of the work we need to do to accelerate this recovery for our students, we're going to have some financial resources to help us to be able to do that. So that's the work now and planning forward for how we're going to attend to this. The other piece of the work is attending to the opportunities that we've had during this time, and making sure that we don't lose sight of what we've learned from this time and not falling back into our old ways of doing things, because I think there's a fair amount of positives that are coming out of this. And I think that we have an opportunity moving forward to have to be able to offer some really strong instructional and social emotional learning supports for all students. Does anybody have any other questions on that?
I just got one quick question. Was there any talk of maybe doing programming through the summer or anything like that?
So there is work that's happening. There's work that's happening at the state level and the legislative level about summer. I'm hoping that there are not mandates around summer, but what we've been hearing, at least from the AOE, is that their hope is the summer will be used to focus on mental health and re-engagement with students, because that is one of the issues that we've struggled with pretty consistently across the state, is the student engagement piece and truancy. So yes, there could be, the academic piece will certainly be a part of it, but the focus is going to be on trying to get them back through the door and reacclimated to wanting to be in school for some of those kids who haven't been engaged. We're just beginning to work through our summer planning at the local level, but like I said, Rick, I do think there's going to be some guidance, some directive about from the state about where we're going to head this summer potentially. There might be some legislative action.
Sorry, Lynn.
It's okay.
I was just going to say there's a lot of concern about teacher burnout, and finding on a good year, on a year without COVID, it's hard to find people who will work in the summer and just, have quality teaching in the summer. So I don't see how the focus can be on academics after this year.
Yeah, it's funny. I just had the opposite thought, because I was like, well, if they're going to try to do this academically during the school year, where are we going to find people to do it then? So
Definitely. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Rick, and I think that we're definitely going to lean hard into hiring as early as possible for what we're envisioning for next year, sooner than we typically do. But I also have that worry. It's been a large year for our teachers, and they've now spent nearly a full calendar year in this mode and in this response, and the fatigue has definitely set in, and we're worried about our teachers. So we'll keep our eye on that. It's something that we're not going to not offer academic supports, but that's not going to be the primary focus of the summer work, because one, it's not going to be, summer is not going to catch kids up from a year. It's going to be work that we have to do over time. So summer will be one small piece, but multi-year moving forward. That makes sense. The last piece is just, I know you've been getting some emails from me in terms of positive cases in our SU. For the most part, our positive cases, we're seeing maybe about half that have been in school while infectious and about half that have not been in school while infectious. We've definitely in the last 2-week period seen an uptick in some positive cases within our FNESU communities. We're still not seeing evidence that there's spreading happening within our schools. So that part's good news. It's showing us that the mitigation measures that we have in place are working. In almost every case, we've been able to identify where that exposure has come from the positive case. So we know that there are, we've had our eye on some spreading events in multiple communities. And so we're not entirely surprised by some of the positives that we're getting, because we know that there are, family connections to other positive cases. So we'll keep our eye on that, and we'll keep you updated if there are any changes there. So I'm not going to go in depth here, because I think most people heard us speak about Portrait of a Grad at the FNESU meeting. So we have a task force working a discovery team working. It's a representative group of, there are staff members from a variety of schools and a variety of age bands working on these next steps with our Portrait of a Grad. And they're trying to look at this through the lens of, if what the students produced as a draft Portrait of a Graduate could turn into our graduation proficiencies, thinking about it through the lens of a K-12 continuum, what would the work look like in order for us to be ready to turn these into our graduation proficiencies? So that work is underway, and I could send you more information if you want on that. Just let me know. They'll be reporting back out in April to the SU board any recommendations they have for modifying the draft version of the Portrait of a Grad, and identifying any of the systems work that would need to happen in order to ready us to be able to make that shift. Does anybody have any questions? There's also one of the pieces of the work is they'll be taking a look at looking at our Portrait of a Grad, and they'll be looking at our existing transferable skills, our priority standards, and the Vermont Portrait of a Grad. So that group will also be doing kind of a crosswalk of those things as well to see where there is alignment. Okay, I'm going to talk just a little bit about the legislature and some of the things that are happening there. I think you all have received your legislative report, so I won't spend a ton of time going over these, but just a high level overview. I think that you have probably seen that they did pass the flexibility for annual meetings in 2021. You've received information on that, and we're all set for moving forward with how our annual meetings are set up. Morgan, could you take the lead again on communicating about statewide bargaining for the health benefits? Right now, there are two bills in the House. One bill is centered primarily by the NEA, and the other is the Vermont School Boards Association, and there's some differences between those two bills. Could you give us a high-level comparison, Morgan, on those?
Sure. The very high-level comparison is that the so-called school boards bill is looking to inject a requirement to consider cost to budgets and taxpayers in terms of the arbitrator's report that comes out. And there's some of that in the union bill, but it's significantly reduced. There are other differences that I don't think either of us have really tuned into around alternate members and things like that are, probably important if you're in the room. But in terms of what you guys want to be watching, it's really about whether the arbitration process can consider cost or not. And I think one of the reasons that it's important is that if there's no consideration of that in the end game, then it really removes the incentive for one of the sides to come to any sort of negotiated agreement during the regular part of the process. And then that process is starting up now for the next probably 2 years of agreements. I received an information request during this meeting, so they are gathering their information on how many staff members you have and what sort of benefits they have. And we'll be going from there for probably another 18 months is my guess.
So another part of the legislation that I think that it would be helpful for you to keep your eye on as board members is the work that's happening around the pupil weighting study. I think that is incredibly important for the Enosburg-Richford Unified Union School District in particular. What that does is, you get your equalized pupil counts at whenever you're building your budget every fall, and they come out in this like fraction of children. So it might be like 900.72 students, right? So depending on the type of student that you're counting, there are different weights associated. So kids who live in poverty have a higher weight associated, and the idea is that it costs more to educate a child who lives in poverty, or a child who's in high school costs more to educate a child in elementary school, an ELL student, and so on and so forth. So they're taking a look at the pupil weighting study through the lens of, is it time for them to re-weight those different weighting measures? So we should keep our eye on that, certainly. One of the bills that I think, if I had to identify one that I think is most problematic for us, it would be H80, a bill that's in the House right now. And this is a bill that is seeking to allow teachers to sign a contract with their employer and then continue to look for employment elsewhere. So what that would essentially mean is we wouldn't have a point in time where we had a stable workforce. It would allow them to break that contract at any point throughout the summer, is the way I understand it. So I think that we've definitely done enough work in FNESU around our challenges around teacher recruitment for you to understand that that implication might mean that we're starting off a school year without a fourth grade teacher in this school or without a special educator in this school. It would significantly disadvantage those of us who are further away from places like Chittenden County. So that's certainly one that we need to pay attention to. There are significant shortfalls in the teachers' pension liabilities that we all need to be paying attention to. There are some recommendations from Treasurer Pierce around how to rectify that. Pension has been short funded for quite some time, and now it's in trouble. And so they're trying to find a way to be able to make that pension fund healthier, I guess. So some of the things they're considering are definitely things that are going to be hard to swallow for educators. I think that those are really the big pieces that I just wanted to draw your attention to in terms of what you should be watching in the legislature right now. The other update that I had for you is just around teacher negotiations. We're getting much closer to being able to come to an agreement with the teachers union. So we will update you as soon as we have more information there. And that is all I have for you.
Great. Any questions for Lynn before we move on to Morgan? Nope. Okay.
You could text me, Polly, if there's anything that comes up that you need me to jump back on for.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Bye. Morgan, your turn.
Thank you, Polly. And just so you know, Wendy is on if you end up with a roll call vote. You've got my report in your packet. The only update I would add to that, to the financial update, is that I did receive the first draft of the SU audit about 10 minutes ago. So I haven't obviously had a chance to look at it yet, but my hope is that the other two will be dropping soon and we'll have something to you before your next meeting to review. Any questions on that?
No, but I was wondering, and I guess I can ask you later, but I was wondering if we could go over the new, if I could talk to you tomorrow about going over the new numbers for the informational meeting.
Yeah,
so
I'm going to touch on that a little bit tonight, but
okay.
Yeah, we can set up a time tomorrow.
Okay, good.
So as I had put out in your packet, the yield number is still very much in flux. And in the past, we have gone with the tax commissioner's recommendation, which comes out on December 1st, and use that for the materials that we send out to taxpayers in the town books. Discussion at this board, we decided to go with the number from last year, which was higher. That number seemed to be more based in reality with the changes in the ed fund. And after talking with my colleagues across the state, it seemed like most of them who hadn't warned it yet were going to go with that number. House Ways and Means has kind of raised that number up again. The bill has passed their committee and it's gone to the House Ed Committee. I was hoping that they would get through that and get a number over to the Senate side before we had to print our mailers that go out. But it looks like that's going to be sitting in House Ed for a little while. I don't have any indication that it's a problem with the number as much as a problem with the other things that they have on their schedule, and they're not feeling as big a time push as House Ways and Means was. But what I wanted to do is share my screen and share a few things with you. The first will be your budget packet. So this is what went out to towns. And I just wanted to call your attention to the money item here. We were projecting with the yield rate from the prior year and equalized pupils as we understood them to be at that time, an increase of just over 3 cents before the CLA for the two towns. So this is the figure that is out in your books. What I'm proposing to send out in the budget packets is an updated equalized pupil number as well as the updated yield number. Let me just get out, trying to make this a little bit bigger for you. So I don't know how easy it is for you to see that, but this is the mailing that we plan to send out to all voters in both towns. And we have information both on ER and NMV. Using the new yield rate as of the House Ways and Means Committee from last week, as well as an updated equalized pupil number. And I think this may change one more time before it's really, really final, but it may stay at that point as well. If it does change, it's not going to change significantly. By using this new equalized pupil, this new dollar yield, the tax rate for the district as a whole is actually down 1.50 cents. And then you can see with the CLA amounts what that would do to both the Enosburg and the Richford figures that are seen on your tax bills.
So Morgan, what change did what change there? Equalized pupil numbers go up, or is the yield higher than what we estimated?
The change that's significant is that the yield is higher than what we estimated. Your equalized pupils dropped a little bit, but it was relatively inconsequential. I just figured that if I was updating the yield with the latest, greatest numbers, I should do that throughout. And so, my only concern about putting this out is then you have sort of two different sets of these numbers, one in the town book and one in the mailer that's going out. I added here that these numbers are as of February 9th, because I'm hoping to send this off to the printers either tonight or tomorrow. And to the extent that we get people showing up at the informational meeting on Zoom, we can explain that difference to them, as well as whatever we decide to put out in terms of social media. But really the big change in that tax rate is due to the yield. And then again, for the mailer, this is what the first page would look like. I've got both you and NMV in there, Franklin County average and the Vermont state average. And then this is ed spending by town for last fiscal year. And we don't have this fiscal year because we don't have budgets approved yet. So are there any questions on that?
I don't think so. Doesn't sound like it.
Well, unless there's anything else, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, great. And just for the board, I was gonna talk with Morgan tomorrow just to get my kind of script ready to explain that. And I was gonna do a video that we could put out on social media with an explanation of those numbers. So that might curb some of the questions that might come at the informational meeting, but that's the plan. Okay, so we will jump into the principal's report and we'll start with Beth. Do you have anything to add other than what's in your report?
No, everything's informational. Thank you.
Perfect.
Wait. Hey, Beth, can you explain the chip thing for me?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
The heater system, the chip.
Yes. So the wood chip plant was designed, or the BTU output was designed with the old windows in that building. And now that there's new windows, the demand for heat is so much less than it was before that, that we have, it's doing damage to the system because we're not calling for enough heat. And so it's actually melting some of the parts because it isn't pulling enough heat or drawing enough heat off the system. So we have some people looking at it to give us some recommendations about the best option, our best option. So we can either dump some heat somewhere, and where would be the best place to dump it, or we could put an adapter on so it creates less heat. And so we're looking at the best options at this point, but it has not been running for a while because it's making too much heat for what we're calling for.
Would be perfect for a greenhouse.
Yes, it would.
Okay, next, Jen, is there anything to add other than your board report?
Nope, everything was informational.
Great, thanks. And then Lisa, welcome. How is everything going?
Thank you. It's been going great. I was principal at Enosburg 20 years ago, so this has been a trip down memory lane. It's been great. Thank you. I have nothing to add. It's just my board report.
Well, thank you so much for stepping in. We greatly appreciate it. And I hope it's a good trip down memory lane and not a bad one.
It is. So far, so good.
Okay, good. Do you have anything to add other than what was in Rachel's report or no?
No, nothing.
Okay. And Joseph.
Everything I have is informational. I just wanted to officially welcome Lisa. It's great having you in the building, Lisa.
Great. And Nate.
The only thing I have is are there someone on the board want to be part of the interview committee for a co-op coordinator position? Are we still doing board members representation on interview committees, or are we not?
So technically, the School Boards Association kind of tipped us that it would just be out of courtesy alone because our only employer is the superintendent. That's the only one we have purview over. So that's up to anybody here who wants to be, or whether you would like to invite us or not.
Well, I will. There's an invitation. Yes, by all means, if someone wants to volunteer, please let me know. Email me or tell me now. But if I'm not exactly sure when it's going to happen, I don't know if it'll probably happen right after break, so early March. So if someone's interested, by all means, let me know. But other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Gab, I see you're on. Do you have anything to add, or are you just here to listen?
I'm just here to listen. I don't report to this board, I don't think.
No, you don't. I just saw you and I just wanted to say hi. Okay, so next is board business. We have our annual information meeting. If you saw in the email that it's scheduled for the 22nd at 7 o'clock. Anything about that, Morgan? We need to know.
So we obviously don't know how many people to expect for this. When we were taking our staff through the reopening plan last fall, we used some of the features on Zoom so that you would only see the kind of the participants up front, the presenters, and then any questions from the larger group that came in would come into a Q&A box, and then we had somebody whose job was just to sift through that and try to compile questions and then verbally ask them on the meeting for folks. So our plan is to do that. Again, it'll likely be somebody other than Lynn and I doing the compiling and asking, but we haven't seen each other pretty much all year, but we will we'll get in touch and probably have somebody from our office do that. And then that'll also leave the 6 board members free to answer any questions.
Okay. Morgan, there's 2 of you on here. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Okay. Just want to make sure your identity wasn't taken. The scholarship fund work. This came up on the agenda once about the scholarship fund, and I know that Kevin, you were not at that meeting. So Lynn had suggested that maybe it should be kind of a committee to talk about that scholarship fund. And I didn't know if that's how you want to handle it, or did you want to discuss it in a meeting? How do you want to do that?
I'm open to anything. It's been a while, so I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
full details.
Same. I was trying to think of the situation. So then it might make sense just to kind of familiarize ourselves with the issue. So I'll have Lynn send me the information, and why don't we think about creating a little committee just to kind of hammer out a process for that. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be in touch so that we can figure out a process on how to handle that scholarship.
Polly, I would encourage you to have Franny Jackson and Beth O'Brien on that as their trustees for at least some of those funds. And just to remind folks, I think the discussion came up a couple of years ago because one of the trustees of possibly one of the larger funds in Richford approached me, and separately it approached Kevin with this idea of bringing all the funds sort of under one roof so that they would have a greater impact.
Yeah, and then now you're jogging my memory. I'm torn on that idea. I definitely see the value because you'd have a bigger pot, but then if that money was made in name of something or someone, right, then does that negate the true intent? I don't know. I'm kind of torn.
Sounds like you need to be on the committee as well.
Okay. So yeah, well, I'll be in touch. Kevin, Beth, and Franny, we'll talk. And then next is future agenda items. Question, we don't have another meeting before town meeting, do we?
Your informational meeting is going to be warned as an official meeting.
Okay.
You don't have a regular meeting until the week after.
Okay. So I guess I want to thank Wendy because this is our last kind of formal board meeting, for stepping in and being a member of the board. So I want to publicly thank you very much.
Thank you, Polly. It was an honor.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry we had to do it all by Zoom for the most part of it, but
Yeah, it was definitely different, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, good. Thank you. So future agenda items, anybody have anything that they need to see happen? No? Okay. So I would entertain oh my gosh, it's 6:30. A motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Gold. I'll take a roll. Amy?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And Wendy?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night. Hang in there.